Hey, TE 831, and welcome to week 10. This week we are practicing theory and exploring the research of ed technology to inform our own instructional practice. This will be a little bit of a shorter video. Our usual videos are around 12 to 13 minutes. This week I'll probably sort of end the video around 7 minutes, as this week is really about self-directed learning. As always, here's a quick agenda for the video. We'll go over the readings and some of the viewings for this week. I'll talk a little bit about what I mean about practicing research, and then once again I'll sort of aim on our focus of the Remix, Remediate, Reteach assignment. Remember that for those of you who I sort of commented in your Google Drive that you needed to sort of add additional literature or augment the literature view that you already have, this week and focusing on what research says about your sort of particular problem of practice should sort of help you develop and nuance what that literature review will look like. Again, this is also just a space to give you writing time, because drafts should be close to done by the end of this week, as you will engage in peer review in 2 weeks. So the more that you have done and the more that other people can comment on, the better you will be. We'll also sort of preview week 10 and beyond. For those of you who sort of are keeping track, you'll realize that we are 2/3 of the way through. And this last month will actually move very, very sort of quickly, as these last 4 weeks prior to the final assignment being turned in is really about the doing. You're going to be turning in a lot of the work in this sort of last trimester, if you will, of the course. But for those of you who have not taught or are not beginning to teach, you should definitely do that, because that needs to happen prior to you writing up your findings. So what we did last week, and based on everyone's sort of discussion board, what I saw is that you loved sort of thinking about what it means from moving to STEAM from STEM and adding the arts into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We took a closer look of what it looked like to practice the T of technology in the science and mathematics classroom, and I was particular about this as I wanted you to see that when we talk about science and mathematics with technology, the sort of level of rigor goes through the roof. Some of those articles were really hard to sit through, because for those of you who aren't necessarily well acquainted with geometrical expressions and or tinker plots, I know the first time I read it I was like, huh? And I had to sort of think through what in particular the technology was trying to remediate in terms of the content. This week, we're going to continue with chapter 11 of Beach's book, and then you're going to see that you have 3 free choice articles that should be chosen to guide the work you're doing with the Remix, Remediate, and Reteach assignment. So how do we find research on using technology in our subject matter, discipline, or field? What are some good resources I can tap into? So I want you to think about, first and foremost, these should be tech-specific tools and articles or blog posts or videos about your particular subject matter. So for those of you who teach elementary school or early childhood or primary grades, you may want to check out NAEYC, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, as well as the journal Language Arts. Typically, if you sort of Google or use technology as a keyword in these 2 categories, NAEYC and Language Arts, you'll be able to find sort of some resources that may help you think through what this looks like in your content area. For those of us in English education, obviously I would sort of tell you and recommend going to the National Council of Teachers of English, NCTE. I'd also think about 2 major journals, Research in the Teaching of English as well as English Education. English Education as a journal has a lot of sort of high-level research articles about using technology, so I would definitely check that out. You'll sort of notice that we read articles from English Education when it was time to sort of think through English Ed, but definitely there's some more stuff that I haven't tapped into in this class. If you're focused on mathematics, obviously you can sort of look to the National Council for the Teaching of Mathematics, as well as Teaching Mathematics to the Young Learner, which is a journal. If you're more focused on science, you may want to think about NARST, the National Association for the Research of Science Teaching, as well as the Journal of Research in Science Teaching. For those of you whose content areas or particular sort of disciplines or fields are not represented, you may want to sort of reference other journals that are particular to using technology in education and some educational technology journals. Those are not represented here because I wanted to sort of think through how teaching subject content matter will sort of crystallize and be brought to fruition for those of us in TE 831 who are focusing in on our sort of core disciplinary field. If you have any questions though, and or need additional sort of help locating journals, please let me know. Here are two of the sort of resources I would use. As a graduate student at Michigan State, you all have access to MSU libraries. Obviously, you could sort of see that I toggled on the second tab in thinking about using Library Catalog rather than Search Plus. In Library Catalog, I could actually type in keywords such as technology and arts-based research or technology and project management, and I will sort of receive a bunch of hits that may help me gather resources. For the purposes of this class, I do not think that a book is probably the best way to go. You have 1 week to locate and read these articles. So I would sort of focus in on journals and practitioner-oriented journals when you can. I also think you should look at Google Scholar. You could think about sort of articles and using Google Scholar as a database to also tap in to the Remix, Remediate, and Reteach assignment. Again, these articles should sort of help foster your learning and your literature review in the actual case study itself. Looking ahead, what you'll see is that, like I previewed last week, this really helps us think through, build, and complete the literature review for our case study. So what does the literature say about teaching with technology in your subject matter or discipline? These three pieces should only further augment and foster your learning outside of our content-specific class documents we've already read in TE 831. You also should be thinking about completing the methods and modes of practitioner inquiry for the project, as well as thinking about what are some of the findings that I know have already happened because I taught, or that I think will happen in my teaching of this lesson, unit, project, or objective. Obviously, you should also, I got some notifications that you've amended and resolved my comments. Continue doing that. But also keep looking out for other people. I would encourage you to go through each other's documents and also make sure that you're able to comment and sort of share resources in that way. I would do this through the comment feature on Google Docs, or just through direct email, being like, oh, hey, Aaron, I read your paper and I thought X. Or, hey, Amy and Abby, I was looking I saw some common themes in yours. Maybe you want to try Y. Either way, you should sort of start perusing each other's documents, as we will be engaging in a peer review in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is very short. And what you'll notice is we do a peer review and then you turn in your final. So it's pretty, tick tock, it's time to sort of really get the hands on the keyboard and start writing and teaching this. As always, if you have any questions and or just want to sort of shout out at me, wargojohn@msu.edu. Thanks to those of you who have sort of asked to chat. We sort of sat down and Google hung out with one another. We also sort of I'm always interested in sort of seeing your tweets using the tag TE831, so follow me and or direct tweet me at wargojohn. Thanks for another great week, and I look forward to sort of seeing some of the articles you choose for week 10. Have a good one.